Everything okay?
Yes.
You're on the floor there?
I'm just scared.
Okay.
The story is growing increasingly bizarre.
I didn't murder my mom, sir.
Listen to me. Listen to me. You did, because you're behind it. You pulled all the strings on it.
I did.
You're behind it.
I supplied the knife.
Where did you get the knife?
I stole it from Walmart. We had sexual relations in the bathroom stall of the men's bathroom.
I'm not going to play the sympathetic game. I'm not like that, okay? I can see right through it.
Did you and your mother obtain any kind of advantage by you being in a wheelchair?
Yes, sir. Financial, attention, charity. I believe there are angels among us. Sing down to us. I think to some degree I knew it was a facade. However, I didn't know the malicious intent behind the facade. I remember my mom had gave me this little glass house and she said, one day this will be real. And now it finally is.
That's Gypsy 7 years ago, clutching her mother DeeDee's hand, the woman she's now accused of asking her boyfriend to stab to death.
And I want to start off with saying things are not always as they appear.
I'm not able to be in jail. I have a lot of medical needs.
I understand that, and they'll get taken care of.
I want a lawyer. Please, sir. Sir. Please, I need a lawyer.
Okay, have a seat.
Gypsy Rose Blanchard celebrating her release from prison with a party.
It just proves that happy endings are not just in fairy tales. They're real and true in real life also.
Cameras have been following Gypsy since her release.
How many men wrote to you wanting to date you while you were in prison?
A lot. Over 250.
From all different countries.
From all countries, Italy,
I said
Germany.
7 continents.
People are cheering her on to encourage her to have the best life that she deserves.
Can't bring me down. I'm on a high right now. I'm living my best life, and y'all can't take that from me.
And the D is
fire.
Good morning, everybody. It's Gypsy. I wanted to come on here and give you guys some morning motivation. They can't bring you down. You're on a high right now. Can't bring me down. I'm on a high right now. I'm living my best life, and y'all can't take that from me. I don't care, because you can't bring me down. I'm on a high right now. And the D is fire.
Gypsy, you alone have amassed over 6 million followers on Instagram.
I'm no different than the next girl. I think Will Smith had commented, he's happy that I got released and he wishes me the best and whatnot. Thank you, Will. It's very nice of you.
Some go as far to say as you're dangerous.
I want to clap back. And that was my, clap back a little bit. I was a part of the crime, but I didn't commit the act. I think that is what people need to really remember. From somewhere up above, they come to you. And me in our darkest hour.
Today, I want to talk about Gypsy Rose Blanchard. Now, this case, it is a roller coaster. Gypsy and her boyfriend together killed her mom. Her mom's called DeeDee. The thing is, people don't like DeeDee. For example, her own family, when they got her ashes after she died, they flushed them down the toilet. They didn't even want a funeral. They didn't want anything. When they got the ashes, they're like, flush it. Because why? Because she's a piece of shit. Okay? That's what you do with pieces of shit. You flush them down the toilet, usually. Now, I'm not saying that she should have been murdered. I'm just saying that's what her family did. Okay? This video is sponsored by Blueland. What is Blueland, you ask? I'm going to tell you. Blueland is a cleaning product company. There's no single-use plastic in anything. Not in the containers themselves, not in the wrapping, not in the shipping materials, nothing. You have these tablets, and all you do is fill it up with warm to hot water and put in the tablet. The tablet ingredients are good too. They're non-GMO. They don't have certain phthalates, I think is how you say that, or chlorine bleach in it, but it's effective too. And the tablets are so affordable. There's those like $2.25 per tablet. And then if you subscribe or you buy it in bulk, it's even cheaper. There's like a pink bathroom one, a blue glass cleaner one, and this yellow multi-purpose one, which I really like because it's multi-purpose. You know, I always end up reaching, unless it's like a big job, I like to reach for the multi-purpose. It makes it more simple, and it has like a nice citrus scent. And they're having the biggest sale of the year, which is 15% off. If you're interested, click my link below in the description box. Thank you so much to Blue Land for sponsoring this video, and thank you guys for watching. Back to the video. What ended up happening is recently Gypsy got released early from prison, and everyone was like, yes, queen, slay, slay, slay. And I'm like, well, she did slay. Literally, well, she second degree slayed. She literally became a meme on social media where she was like, I'm on a high right now, and y'all can't take that from me. And the D is fire.
Can't bring me down. I'm on a high right now. I'm living my best life, and y'all can't take that from me.
And the D is
I was seeing how she was like blowing up on social media and getting all these fans and doing all these interviews. And I was like, I'm telling you, they're building her up just to tear her down. Like the tide is going to turn, you know? How the turntables.
Well, well, well. How the turntables.
It went from, oh my God, yes, Queen Slay, to like, wait a minute. Why are we celebrating a murder? Like, what is going on? And she's a manipulative liar. I'm still conflicted. I still don't know what I believe. You know, there's sometimes I read certain things and I go, this is so fucked. Oh my God. I want to go back in time and kill her myself, the mom, DeeDee. And then there are other times where I'm like, Gypsy, come on now. So I want to do what I usually do on my channel. Okay, I want to give you guys the facts. Then we'll discuss the theories. Here, theory hat, and then you can decide for yourself. The whole thing really starts on May 3rd, 1967 in Chack Bay, Louisiana, when Claudine Pitre was born. She became a scammer. The thing is, you know, scamming is lucrative. I'm sure you know that by now. But before she became a scammer, she was a voodoo priestess. But we'll get more into the whole like voodoo priestess thing later because I need to tell you first her childhood because it's very important, I think, to like how this all started. You see, DeeDee was the youngest of 5 children, and according to DeeDee's siblings, their mom Emma babied DeeDee because she had a heart murmur as a kid and was also very overprotective. Like she couldn't go out to play or anything, and she was quote unquote the favorite. She got a lot of attention for being like the sick kid. Okay. DeeDee's siblings actually suspect that DeeDee killed her mom Emma later on in the 90s, okay, which, you know, talk about pathology when you realize that DeeDee was killed by her daughter, and then did she kill her mom? I don't know, allegedly. But the siblings believe that not only did she kill her mom, but they also think she was like poisoning the stepmom. But I'm getting way ahead of myself. Sorry. Okay. Back to DeeDee being a child. So she had this very sheltered childhood. And then in 1986, when she was about 19, she entered this beauty pageant. And, you know, back to the whole voodoo priestess thing, she was always casting spells on people. She would play with magic. She loved using Ouija boards. She even had a tattoo of a wizard on her ankle. And later on, Gypsy would say that her mom, DeeDee, put a hex on her with like Gypsy's menstrual blood and a cow tongue, and like all this other shit. And so she was into that. Okay. She's doing the voodoo thing. She's in the beauty pageant. By the time DeeDee was in her 20s, she became a nurse's aide. And then also in her 20s, when she was 24, she met a man named Rod Blanchard at a bowling alley. Well, he was not a man. He was actually a teenager. He was 17. He was a high schooler. She was 24. They met at the bowling alley and she lied to him and she told him she was actually 21. They start dating and then a few months later she gets pregnant. So Rod, he's 17, but he's like, you know what? I'm going to do the right thing and I'm going to marry her and, you know, whatever. Well, That really didn't last because when he turned 18, just a few months after they got married, which was in 1990, by the way, December 27th, 1990, they got married. Few months after that, he turns 18 and he has this epiphany. He's like, what am I doing? I don't want to do this anymore. And he tries to leave DeeDee, and he says that like she tried to get him back many times, but he at the end he was like, no, I'm gone. He left. He ends up leaving DeeDee just very like shortly before Gypsy was born. When Rod leaves DeeDee, they say that DeeDee was like very affected by this. She saw this as like a huge failure in her life. And the fact that she tried to get him back and she couldn't, it really upset her. And shortly after he left her, she ends up giving birth to Gypsy. So July 27, 1991, Gypsy Rose Blanchard is born, which makes her a Leo. So when Gypsy was born, she was a totally healthy, normal baby. Nothing was wrong with her. But then when she was 3 months old, DeeDee said that she had sleep apnea. And she was like, oh my God, she stops breathing at night and struggles. And so she goes to the hospital and she's like, my baby's not breathing. She has sleep apnea. And they're like, oh my gosh, let's stay here overnight. We're going to monitor the baby. We'll do sleep tests and, hook her up to a monitor and everything. And they do all that and they're like, she's fine. She doesn't have sleep apnea. And then DeeDee's like, oh, this doctor doesn't know what he's talking about. Like, I'm a nurse's aide. Like I was for like a little bit. So he doesn't know what he's talking about. Actually, she has a chromosomal defect. She's now basically telling everyone, the father, her family, like Gypsy has a chromosomal defect and she has sleep apnea and it's awful. Soon after that, DeeDee started claiming that Gypsy was having seizures. She would go to doctors and she would say like, she's had seizures before. Like she's not going to have them right now while we're in this office, but she's had them before. And eventually she finds a doctor that's willing to prescribe anti-seizure medication for Gypsy. Okay. And this is where shit starts to snowball because the medication, it had side effects. And those side effects, they could mimic symptoms of illnesses. And so DeeDee would claim that those side effects were actually symptoms of illnesses that Gypsy didn't have.
There was a medication that I was allergic to, and my mother would give me too much of that medication and then take pictures, show them to the doctor, and say, this is when she ate sugar.
Which would then result in other medications or potentially even surgeries that Gypsy didn't need, and so on and so forth. Now it's 1997, and something tragic happens. Emma, DeeDee's mom, Gypsy's grandma, dies. According to DeeDee's family, they say that they think that DeeDee killed her. Why? Because they think she was actually starving her when she was supposedly like taking care of her. And that's all alleged, right? But now her mom is dead and her father remarries a woman named Laura. Now, DeeDee was living with her father and the new mom, her stepmom, and apparently she was very unhappy that he remarried, Laura. She didn't like her, but she was also preparing her food, they say with Roundup, the weed killer, and that's how she was poisoning her, allegedly. Her family said that like Laura developed this chronic illness where she was like bedridden, and it all happened when DeeDee started like preparing her food. And then eventually when DeeDee left and wasn't living with them anymore, Laura made a recovery. And they believe that it was because she was putting the Roundup in her food. So as if that wasn't bad enough, it's about to get worse because when DeeDee and Gypsy were living with DeeDee's dad and stepmom, Gypsy got into a motorcycle accident. Gypsy and her grandfather are riding a motorcycle. They get into some sort of accident, which results in Gypsy saying that she had just a scraped knee. But DeeDee, who was already saying she has sleep apnea and seizures and all this, was like, oh my God, she needs a wheelchair. And so Gypsy says that she literally just one day her mom comes home with a wheelchair and tells her, you're wheelchair ridden now. And Gypsy says like she didn't really know how to be like, no, not going to do that. So she just listened to her mom. And actually, Gypsy said that she was having fun. She was like, I was popping wheelies in the wheelchair and it was fun. And she basically knew from such a young age that she had to fake that she was in a wheelchair. So at the age of like 8, she's already being taught how to lie about her illnesses, how to manipulate, how to fake things at that young of an age. Now that Gypsy's in the wheelchair, Dee Dee's telling people she has muscular dystrophy, seizures. She has leukemia too. Oh my God, did I tell you she has leukemia? And she's shaving her head, right? To pretend like she's losing her hair from the chemo, but she isn't. And she's like, oh, and she has asthma. She can't really hear. She can't really see that well. And also she's slightly like mentally like slow. And it's just piling on, right? And the thing is Dee Dee would take Gypsy to certain doctors, and if the doctors ran tests or didn't believe or didn't find anything, she would just move on to another doctor, another doctor. I mean, they said that over the course of the time that Gypsy was under her mom's care, she saw over 150 doctors for illnesses she didn't even have. Basically, the mom had what's known as Munchausen by proxy, or nowadays I think they call it factitious disorder, which is basically when a caregiver lies or exaggerates about their child's illness for sympathy, attention, sometimes the financial gain. So Dee Dee's family, they started to realize that this whole thing was fake. They saw evidence that Gypsy could walk and didn't need the wheelchair, and that her mom was doing all this for attention and was basically scamming because she was getting uh, Social Security, disability, Medicaid, like all these benefits because of these illnesses that her daughter supposedly had. And they knew it was all fake. So they end up confronting Dee Dee about this. And Dee Dee's pissed. She like starts stealing from the family, and they're telling her, listen, you are the worst. You're stealing, you're making your daughter pretend she's sick. You killed mom, we think, and you're trying to kill our stepmom. Like, dude, you're awful. And so Dee Dee's like, I'm leaving. And she takes Gypsy, she changes her name. She just like added an E at the end. As soon as Dee Dee and Gypsy leave, Laura, the stepmom, who they thought was being poisoned by Dee Dee, starts getting better. And the sad thing is, she actually eventually would die what they called a slow and painful death, which they think was due to the poisoning, allegedly. But in that like immediate time after Dee Dee left, Laura started getting better, which only solidified their ideas that she was poisoning her. And she leaves to Slidell, Louisiana, where she gets public housing there. According to Gypsy, it was like the projects. And that's where they live. They're getting public housing. They're still getting all their benefits. Dee Dee's ex-husband, Rod, Gypsy's dad, he's paying $1,200 a month in child support. And so Dee Dee doesn't have to work. And then also they're getting lots of perks because of Gypsy's illnesses. It was both a good and bad thing that they left from living with the grandfather, like Dee Dee's dad, Gypsy's grandfather, because the good thing about them leaving is, according to Gypsy, her grandfather was actually SAing her. And she said that he was touching her inappropriately and doing things, performing certain acts that were inappropriate. And she was 9 years old at the time and she didn't understand. And then he would tell her, like, don't tell anyone, you don't want to let Papa get in trouble. And that was a good reason that she left if it was happening. And that's the thing, is when the grandfather was confronted with Gypsy's allegations, his response was to say, no, she was trying to do that to me when she was 4. And I told her, no, don't do that. Which, if it is even true that she was trying to do that, that's a red flag that something's happening to her at 4. And, I don't know. Anyway, the problem was, what was bad is now there was no one to hold Dee Dee accountable for what she was doing to Gypsy. They were in a new place. Nobody knew them. On top of that, now Dee Dee has total control over everything with Gypsy. And this is when it gets even worse. It was torture what her mom did to her, like medical torture. She's in a wheelchair, right? And she's allegedly paralyzed. Gypsy had a lazy eye, and so from that, DeeDee was able to have her go through multiple surgeries with her eye. And then after that, she started claiming that Gypsy would have these ear infections. And so they end up doing surgeries where they put tubes in her ears. At this point, also, Gypsy is taking that anti-seizure medication still, and she's having to sleep with a sleep machine every night, even though she doesn't have sleep apnea. And then DeeDee starts putting this numbing gel on Gypsy's gums, which makes her drool. And then she takes her to the doctor, being like, she's got a drooling problem. And the doctor ends up first injecting Botox into Gypsy's saliva glands to make her stop drooling, but she's not stopping drooling because her mom is inducing the drooling with this freaking shit she's putting on her mouth. So then they're like, okay, we're just going to remove her saliva glands. And so the removing her saliva glands and the anti-seizure medication that she was on are believed to create this problem where Gypsy's teeth started rotting, which then caused her teeth to get removed. She had so many teeth removed that she didn't need to have removed. So now she's missing these teeth. And then now her mom's like, she needs a feeding tube. And so she ends up getting a surgery to have a feeding tube inserted. And her mom is feeding her like that liquid food, like Pediasure. She was feeding her Pediasure into her 20s, well into her 20s.
I think I had the feeding tube placed in when I was about 8 years old. Had that feeding tube changed every 6 months until I was 24. My mom used to try to make things that was being done to me fun. Like the feeding tube's name was Mickey Button. She came up with a song. It went like this. Mickey Button, MICKEYBOTTON. Mickey Button, Mickey Button.
But the problem is that Gypsy knew she didn't need it. So she would be eating regular, but then she would pretend that she needed the feeding tube in public, just the same how she knew about the walking thing. She is constantly teaching her daughter how to lie, how to keep up the facade. Turns out that feeding tubes are very common with cases of Munchausen by proxy because it allows the caregiver basically to have total control over medications and things that are put into their victim's body to induce certain symptoms and stuff. Then anytime Gypsy would like cough or sneeze, DeeDee would be like, oh my God, we got to go to the emergency room. Like, let's bring the oxygen tank. Let's bring the feeding tube. Like, we got to go. DeeDee did enjoy the attention and the sympathy that she would get because everybody was like, oh my God, like, you're such a good mom. Like, oh, look how she takes care of her daughter. Like, and then we look at Gypsy, oh, baby, like, you're so sick. She has all these illnesses and surgeries and tubes, and everyone's like, oh my God, my little princess, like, oh my God, and the mom, you're such a good mom. And like both of them, everyone just like loved them. And so they would give them shit, a lot of shit, free shit, expensive shit. For example, vacations, flights, concerts, VIP tickets to theme parks, VIP backstage passes, meet and greets. Like they would meet celebrities. I think she met Miranda Lambert, the country singer, Elijah Wood, the actor. She talked to the police during her interrogation about how she had like the whole, I think it was Universal Studios or something was shut down. And she had private thing and she met like the people from Harry Potter.
This past January, I got a chance to meet some of the cats because my mom and I went on vacation to Universal Studios.
Okay, for the Harry Potter land, or?
Yes, and it was the Harry Potter Expo. So I got to meet the girl that plays Luna. I got to meet the twins, the Weasley twins. Really? Dumbledore and Hagrid.
Wow.
I've been to Kansas City so much that because my hospital was there, we would have the bad stuff, which would be the doctor's appointments, right, and then the good stuff, which would be the fun stuff. Going to the plaza, and it's just basically a bunch of expensive shops. Mr. J works for the New England Patriots. He manages Gillette Stadium.
Okay, one of the big guys.
Oh yeah. That gives you one special night that they shut down the parks It's closed off to everyone else.
So it's like the VIP experience.
And they have this special event where they bring food out. You can go walk around, eat free ice cream.
How many people do they give that to? Is it noticeably
I think
less
it's
crowded?
100 packages. They had a lot of people that didn't get the experience that me and my mom did.
Wish I could swing that. Oh, I'm very happy.
It's pretty expensive.
You can imagine, Disney's not a cheap place.
They were both benefiting, from this. Now, obviously, DeeDee was benefiting way, way more because she didn't have to go through insane, painful, unnecessary surgeries. Because think about it, right? She has to go under anesthesia unnecessarily. The surgeries are painful. So now she's having to heal from cuts and tubes and shit that she doesn't need. Okay, the whole thing is fucked. So as for the father, because there's a lot of where's the dad? What the fuck's going on with the dad? Is he just sending a check and acting like he doesn't know? No, he is believing that Gypsy's sick. He's like, oh my god, this is awful. My daughter's sick, and then he's thinking, I could never do what DeeDee does. Like, wow, this is just a full-time job. Like she's really taking care of like our sick child. So he kind of followed DeeDee's lead. Like he felt bad, like guilty, DeeDee would lie. She would lie to Gypsy and be like, your dad's a piece of shit, whatever. As for the control that DeeDee had, like when they would meet up with Gypsy's dad or at the doctor's appointments, she always did this hand squeezing thing where she would hold and squeeze Gypsy's hand the whole time. Now, to the untrained eye, it's like, oh, look at this mother. She's comforting her daughter so nicely. She's holding her hand and everything. But really, she's squeezing it any time Gypsy talks too much or reveals something too much. According to Gypsy, this is what would happen at these doctor's appointments, okay? She says that mom would say, don't talk, just play with your stuffed animal and we'll do something fun after. She'd say, if you do well at the hospital, then we're going to Toys R Us to buy a new Barbie. She had a very sweet personality. She would use her southern charm to get them to be friendly and get on their good side. And like I mentioned before, right, Gypsy knew that this was all fake. She said, quote, there are certain illnesses that I knew I didn't have. I knew that I didn't need the feeding tube. I knew that I could eat and I knew that I could walk. But I did believe, my mother when she said that I had leukemia because I was taking lots of medications and mom said that they were for cancer. And she would shave my hair off and said, it's going to fall out anyway, so let's keep it nice and neat. Gypsy herself talks about how her mom taught her to lie and manipulate. The articles that I read, they were talking about how the documentaries where Gypsy was interviewed, the people who were doing that and interviewing Gypsy all thought that she was a sociopath or exhibited signs of sociopathy, which makes sense, right? Because look at her childhood, look at her mom, look at what she was forced to do. She was probably forced to scam, but nonetheless, she scammed, right? So I think that once you learn that stuff, it's kind of hard to unlearn it, if you know what I mean. Like I said, they got a lot of benefits, like Make-A-Wish Foundation and all these charities. And Gypsy also sort of became kind of like a local celebrity. And she would be invited to do these motivational speeches about feeding tubes or muscular dystrophy. She would sing.
I believe there are angels among us, sing down to us.
It wasn't just charities and like government assistance that they got, but even just in their community, neighbors, friends, people that they would interact with. Everyone was just so nice to them and would give them stuff, donations, gifts.
Donations, gifts, more gifts.
So this is one article that I found. It's from 2001 and it's about Gypsy being, queen for a day. It says, local girl to serve as queen for a day. It says Gypsy Rose Blanchard has been through more difficulties in her 8 years than most people see in a lifetime, but she maintains her smile through it all. I have been very lucky, said her mother, Claudina Dino Pitcher Blanchard of Chack Bay. She is such a good child. She has never once complained. Gypsy has a lot she could complain about. Suffering from poor physical and mental development. She is both vision and hearing impaired. She can no longer walk, is fed through a feeding tube, and has some brain damage from seizures. Because of her health, Gypsy spends a lot of time at Children's Hospital in New Orleans, her mother said. During overnight hospital visits, she stays at the Ronald McDonald House. We've been going to the Ronald McDonald House since she was 3 days old, she said. Damn, 3 days old. It was employees there who asked Gypsy to be the honorary queen at the Crew of Mid-City Parade slated to roll through New Orleans Sunday at 1:30 p.m. The child-oriented parade boasts an honorary king or queen from Ronald McDonald House every year. Gypsy said she's looking forward to her duties, which include sitting in the reviewing stand and participating in the toast to the king and queen. Despite her health, which has steadily declined over the years, Gypsy still tries to maintain a normal life. She spends a lot of time with her grandfather, Claude, whom she considers her, quote, best friend, end quote. She is also an avid animal lover with 4 cats, including Tebekdo or Little Sweet Kiss. She also makes her way to events like Sesame Street Live and a recent convention for fans at Xena Warrior Princess and Hercules The Legendary Journeys. While there, she met cast members Ted Raimi and Bruce Campbell, aka Joxer, and Autolycus on Xena, who spent the whole weekend with her. They pushed her around in her wheelchair the whole time and talked with her. She said they were so nice. Gypsy's famous friends, as well as the show's producers, email her at least once a month. Now it's 2005. And what happened in Louisiana in 2005? Do you remember? Hurricane Katrina. So this is interesting because every article, everything that I read said that this is a fact and it happened. But at the very end, when the shit hits the fan and there's a press conference, the sheriff is like, we don't even actually know if they were actual victims of Hurricane Katrina. But as the story goes, they were victims of Hurricane Katrina in that it came through Slidell and it wiped out and destroyed their apartment building that they were in, including everything in it, such as medical records and birth certificates, which would end up really coming in handy for DeeDee when she was trying to lie about Gypsy's age and illnesses. So they end up showing up at this shelter for disabled people. It's like a special needs shelter. And they show up in Louisiana at this shelter and they say, look, we are from Slidell. Our entire apartment building got destroyed. We don't have any records, but like, look at her. She's got all these illnesses, like help. The doctor at the shelter that would end up hooking them up big time, she actually said that when she saw Gypsy and all her, stuff, bald with the glasses and the teeth and the tube and the wheelchair, she started to cry. She's like, oh my God, this poor girl, like, and now the hurricane took her house and everything, like, this is awful. And Gypsy said to her, it's okay, you're only human. And so the doctors, she felt so bad. She was like, you know what? I'm going to help you guys like relocate to Missouri. Like she had connections there. And so within a month from them showing up at the shelter, they get airlifted to a home in Aurora, Missouri. And I mean, they got special treatment AF. A helicopter took them there, and there's all these pictures of them in the helicopter. Like it was a good time for them.
It didn't take a lot to convince DeeDee and her daughter Gypsy Rose to make a new home in Aurora. They already knew it was meant to be.
It is the perfect town.
It's amazing. It's amazing the outpouring of love and support.
Dr. Janet Jordan met DeeDee and Gypsy while on a mission trip to the hurricane-ravaged area. She says she knew right away she'd see them again.
They're like lost souls.
Gypsy and DeeDee say they're blessed. Dr. Jordan says they deserve to be.
So now they're in Aurora, Missouri, and they're staying in this home while the charity Habitat for Humanity is building a custom home for them in Springfield, Missouri. Now that they're in Missouri, DeeDee needs to set Gypsy up with all new doctors because of all her, fake illnesses that need treatment. So she starts going to these different doctors in Missouri and telling them like she has muscular dystrophy, seizures, can't see, can't hear, can't eat. Most of the doctors were like, "Oh, wow, that's awful. Let's give her medicine or surgery or whatever." But there was one doctor in particular who was like, "No, this is red flag, red flag." And his name is Dr. Bernardo Flasserstein. He was a pediatric neurologist, and he didn't believe that Gypsy had muscular dystrophy because he saw her put weight on her leg and could stand, but also her tests that they ran all showed that she didn't have it. In fact, he was the one who said, I think the mom has Munchausen by proxy. He even wrote in this referral thing, like, the mom is not a good historian. None of these things, like, she doesn't have these illnesses, but I think the mom has Munchausen by proxy. So DeeDee, when she found out about this, was pissed, right? She's in the office, the doctor's office. She's like, this doctor doesn't know what he's talking about. I used to be a nurse's aide one time for like 5 minutes. Like, fuck this shit. And so she leaves. She ends up driving hours and hours away to some other place in Missouri. I think she went to Kansas City, Missouri, to find other doctors until she was able to get a doctor that was like, okay, she has muscular dystrophy. And now the thing is with Dr. Flasserstein, although he saw that and wrote about that, he didn't actually report the case to social services or something like that because he said he didn't have proof of it. And also he said that the other doctors told him to treat DeeDee and Gypsy with, quote, golden gloves. Like, listen, these are Hurricane Katrina survivors, and like, don't bark up that tree. And so he didn't really do anything about it. That was in 2007. A year later, in 2008, is when DeeDee and Gypsy move into the home that was custom built for them by Habitat for Humanity. It had a ramp and it had a jacuzzi for Gypsy's muscular dystrophy that she didn't have.
We have an awesome bathtub. It's a jacuzzi tub meant for my muscles. And we have a wonderful ramp. I remember my mom had gave me this little glass house. And she said, one day this will be real. And now it finally is.
That's Gypsy 7 years ago, clutching her mother DeeDee's hand, the woman she's now accused of asking her boyfriend, Nicholas Godejohn, to stab to death.
It's so easy to live here, and it's so peaceful.
The two were interviewed after Habitat for Humanity built them a handicapped accessible home because of Gypsy's disabilities.
So the story is like all over the local news, and just like in Louisiana, they become local celebrities in Missouri. And just like in Louisiana, in Missouri, they're getting free everything. Free concert, free trip, free flights, free vacation. Go to Disneyland for this many days. Go to the game. Go to whatever park. And the place where they lived, like where their home was, that was built by Habitat for Humanity, all the other homes that were directly around them were also built by Habitat for Humanity. So they were surrounded by people that, were struggling in some way or another. And one of those women who lived in those homes was a neighbor. Her name was Amy. And Amy had a daughter whose name was Aaliyah. Now, these two are going to factor into the story. So Amy befriended DeeDee. They were very close, and she felt bad for DeeDee and Gypsy. And so she would help out a lot, drive them to the hospital, to their appointments, like just do whatever she could. And she would talk to DeeDee and listen to just awful stories DeeDee would tell her about her father, like Gypsy's grandfather. She's like, well, we used to live with them, but I had to leave. She didn't say that they accused her of poisoning and killing the mom. She said that the grandfather was putting cigarettes out on Gypsy. So I had to leave. And then Amy's like, oh my God, that's awful. And then she goes, what about the dad, Gypsy's dad? She's like, oh, Gypsy's dad is awful. He's a deadbeat. He doesn't give us any money, cashes in the $1,000 check. He's awful, calls him, hey, we need something. He's just the worst. And when we went to the Special Olympics with Gypsy, because Gypsy went to the Special Olympics in the wheelchair, and competed, they were like, he came, but he called it a freak show. He's just awful. And so Amy's like, oh my God, like poor DeeDee, this is awful. But then on the flip side, DeeDee would always brag about like all the shit they were getting for free, like the concerts, the trips, the celebrities. And Amy was like, despite all that awful stuff that she was telling me that I could, see, she was like, sometimes I was actually jealous because of how much they were getting. And I think that's really interesting because it shows you the incentive for all of that is that imagine all that shit and hearing that and seeing all that and you're still jealous of them. Like, damn, that's crazy. Dude, when I read this in one of the articles, I was like, this bitch is the hustler scammer of the year, of the century, of the millennium. So the house that was built by Habitat for Humanity, you know what Dee Dee did? She got a projector that would play movies like on the side of the house because the kids in the area, right, their parents couldn't afford to take them to the movies. So what did she do? She got the projector, started playing movies for the kids in the neighborhood, but she was charging, okay, not as much as movie theater, but charging like for snacks and charging them. And she was like, it's for Gypsy's treatment. You're already stealing money from all these people and fake lying and that. And now these needy people, you're going to fucking charge the poor for some shit that you know you don't need. You evil. No wonder anyway, sorry. I don't know why that one really pissed me off. Like she didn't twist their arm and tell them like they didn't have to do it. But like, damn, couldn't you have just let them watch the movie for free? You were getting everything else for free off of a scam. You couldn't let these poor kids watch the damn thing. Anyway, whatever. Whoa, I usually need to like stay neutral, but I'm trying, failing, but trying. Moving on. Well, I don't know what that was. Also, around this time now, like when Gypsy was about 16, so let's say around like 2007, 8, like that, is when Gypsy says she started to develop an addiction to pain pills. Because think about it, right? She's getting all these unnecessary surgeries. She's having painful recovery for shit she doesn't need. She knows she doesn't need it. She's like being forced to do this shit by her mom. So she said that she took those pills, A, for the pain, but also to escape. She was like, they helped me escape from my reality. So she would take more than she needed to sometimes. And she would take a lot. And this pill addiction continued for a very long time, even kind of became an issue when she was in prison and stuff like that. So now it's 2009. And this is when an anonymous caller calls the cops and basically reports DeeDee. Says that DeeDee is lying about her daughter's illness. Her daughter is not as sick as she's saying she is, and tells the cops. What ends up happening, the caller also says not only is she not as sick, but the mom has lied about her name and lied about her birthday because there's different birth dates for her in the system. She has like different birth certificates and the name is different. Like one time Blanchard is just Blanchard, D at the end, another time it's the E at the end. And so they're like, this is like she's scamming and lying about a lot of things. So the cops end up going to her house. I found one article where it said police showed up, another one that said 2 caseworkers. Maybe both showed up, police and caseworkers, like from social services, showed up. And there was a police report that a reporter read and talked about in this article that I found. And they said that he basically told them, yes, I am lying, not about her illnesses, about the birth date and the name because her father is a drug addicted alcoholic abuser and we're on the run from him. The father that she's calling and talking to nicely and having Gypsy talk to, even though she's telling Gypsy he's a bad man, when she's talking to him alone, according to Rod, the father, they were good. They had a friendly relationship where not only was he paying child support, but she would ask him for gifts and toys and TVs and shit. And he would give it all the time because he felt bad. The daughter's sick. He's not there to take care of her. And so he felt like he had a good relationship with DeeDee. He had no idea she's over here talking shit about him. And so she tells the cops like he is, abusive. We're on the run. We're hiding from him. That's why I'm changing the information so he can't find us. So the cops, they just totally take it at face value. They believe her. They don't ever call the father. They don't ever follow up. They just are like, yes. Also, we saw the child and she is kind of like mentally slow, is what the police thought when they talked to Gypsy. And that was it. The case was closed. According to the article that I read, they say that it wasn't Dr. Flasserstein who reported it because there was some speculation that it was, but it was another doctor. Another doctor reported it, but not Flasserstein. Now it's 2011. All right. And Gypsy's been going through this for a long time. She's getting older. She's hitting puberty. She's starting to think about boys, and she's wanting some freedom. She's wanting to rebel, right? She's becoming a teenager. Hello. That's what we do. I'm not a teenager. They do. Well, sometimes I think that I am. Bitch, shut up. Since 2001, when Gypsy was very young, she would go to these sci-fi conventions with her mom, like for different movies, Star Wars, like all that stuff. And so she became a regular. She ends up at one of these sci-fi conventions meeting this guy called Dan, who is way older than her. So now Gypsy was actually 19, but she thought she was 15. DeeDee was telling everyone that she was 15. She was really 19. This guy Dan was 35. But they met at the convention, and Gypsy's in a wheelchair, and they end up exchanging information and keeping in touch online. So Gypsy is secretly talking to this Dan guy online. And in 2011, they decide that they're going to like meet up at one of these conventions that Gypsy was going to with her mom, and that she was going to go and run away with him. And so she meets him at the convention. He takes her up to her hotel room. Oh, I forgot to mention, at some point during them talking, Gypsy confides in this guy, Dan, that she doesn't actually need a wheelchair, that she can walk, and that her mom's telling her to fake it and all that. And that's why, like, she wants to run away. And so this guy, Dan, is telling her, like, you could come with me and everything. So when Gypsy disappears at this convention, DeeDee freaks out, right? She's like, oh my daughter is missing, like what's going on? And they end up, speaking to the staff and whatever, and they end up finding out that Gypsy is in this hotel room where the convention is. And so DeeDee goes to the room, knocks on the door, and Dan opens it, and DeeDee has this paper with her that's like a fake birth certificate that says that Gypsy is 15 and he's 35. And she's like, what the fuck? And the guy's like, you can take her. I'm good. And so then Gypsy is now back in DeeDee's custody, and DeeDee is pissed. Okay. She does this whole scene, and she's like telling her friends, like, the internet is evil. Like, this is fucked up. She's like smashing the computer with a hammer, taking away Gypsy's phone, monitoring her access to the internet. Like, this is bullshit. So Gypsy's like, fuck, like, this is crazy. And then she still thinks she's 15 though, okay? Then one day Gypsy finds her Medicaid card, and she realizes she's actually 19. So she's like, I'm an adult. Like, I actually don't have to be here. Like, I'm 19. So she tells Dan this, because even though her mom broke the computer, she ended up buying another one. So she's still able to talk to Dan. And she tells Dan, like, dude, I found my Medicaid ID. I'm 19. Like, this is insane. So again, they start plotting and planning for her to run away. This time, they're like, okay, she is going to, like, sneak out in the middle of the night and hitchhike to Dan's friend's house that's like nearby. And Dan is going to go and meet her there, and, they'll live happily ever after. So Gypsy says she writes a note for her mom. She didn't want her mom to worry. She's like, I'm an independent woman. Like, I know I'm 19. I'm leaving. I'm going to live my own life. She says she stole some money and some pain pills. And she left in the middle of the night, walked out, hitchhiked, went to Dan's friend's house, met Dan there. That's when she finds out that Dan actually is on probation and can't leave the state. And I guess he had told her that they were able to leave and go far away. So now she's stuck at like his friend's house with him. And the thing is, she left her mom's phone behind, which she used at times to speak to Dan and friends and people online. So when DeeDee wakes up and realizes that Gypsy's missing, she's like looking through her phone, and she finds the messages between Gypsy and Dan. And through that, she finds out where Gypsy's going, like the friend's address, and she shows up. She shows up and she talks to Gypsy, and Gypsy tells her, I'm 19. Like, I'm an adult. You can't force me to come with you. And that's when she said DeeDee switched. DeeDee's like became super nice, manipulative, and was like, I don't mind if you see Dan. You be with Dan. Just come with me and be with me, and you can see Dan, and everything will be good. Like, you still need me. You have sicknesses. I don't know if she thought she had cancer still or what, but she says, Gypsy, that she felt like she could trust her mom. All she wanted was to be able to have a boyfriend and like be normal. And she believed her mom when her mom said, you can still see Dan. Well, according to Gypsy, it was all a lie, because when her mom got her home, she, for the first time, according to Gypsy, got physical with her. According to Gypsy, her mom hit her. And not only that, she chained her to the bed, and then had a dog leash attached to it that was attached to DeeDee, so that even if DeeDee was sleeping, if Gypsy tried to move or something, it would wake DeeDee up, because DeeDee started to be like, damn, like every time I go to sleep, she's doing something. And then it got even worse. She said that she kept her like this chained up for 2 weeks, and that she wouldn't feed her every day. And that's when she put the voodoo hex on her. Gypsy said that DeeDee took Gypsy's menstrual blood and put it in a jar. And then she put a cow's tongue in there as well, with a picture of Dan and a picture of Gypsy. And then she closed the mason jar, and then she buried it in the yard. And she said this curse, which was, quote, "You will never find love. You will never be happy. You'll never find love. You will never be happy." And Gypsy at sometimes still believes that like this curse is true. Like if she has a relationship and it doesn't work out, she remembers like this curse that her mom put on her. And then, according to Gypsy, DeeDee bought a gun, at least what she thought was a gun. And she said that she was terrified after that. Like, oh my God, like she chained me, she beat me, and now she bought a gun, she put a hex on me, like fuck. When her mom chained her to the bed, after that, her mom actually declared her mentally incompetent and had a guardianship over her, which made it really hard for Gypsy, because she felt like she couldn't actually tell people, hey, this is a lie. My mom's doing this to me, because her mom's going to be like, she's, she's not all there. Like, you can't really listen to her. So that's when she started to feel like she actually had no choice. Slowly, though, Gypsy was trying to earn her mom's trust back until she got, unchained from the bed, and then she could have a little bit more freedom here and a little bit more freedom there. And it got to the point where Gypsy wanted to run away again. And what happened was she packed a bag and she hid it like under the bed or under the couch, and her mom found it. When DeeDee found this bag and was like, "You're trying to run away again," they got into a huge argument. And this is when Gypsy said she took the gun that her mom bought and shot her mom. She said she shot her as many times as she could, about 10 times. That's when she realized that it was a BB gun and not a real gun, because the wounds were, quote, superficial. So DeeDee, she ends up going to the hospital for these BB gun shots. She lies and says that she got robbed at Walmart and they like shot her up with a BB gun. And she didn't actually say the truth, because she didn't want people to be like, why would your wheelchair sickly daughter start shooting you with a BB gun? Like, what the fuck's going on in this house? Start digging and find out that they're scammers. And so after that, Gypsy said she was defeated. Remember, this is all in 2011. She's like, damn, when am I ever going to get away? And then now it's 2012. And that's when she would meet the guy who would end up killing her mom. So it all started when Gypsy, who was still sneaking access to the internet, late at night when her mom was sleeping, she would go online and she went on this website called ChristianDatingForFree.com.
You said you guys met on a website?
Yeah, on a it was called ChristianDatingForFree.com.
On this website, she found this guy. His name was Nicholas Godejan, aka Nick. She sent him a wink. He responded, and immediately they were like damn near in a committed relationship within a couple days.
It was a site called ChristianForDatingFree.com. I don't know how to explain it. It's like the way that we clicked is it made it seem like we somehow just knew we were right for each other. 4 days, I would have to say. 4 days later, we started a relationship together.
What kind of relationship was that you guys started?
It was one of those committed ones.
Okay.
Now, the thing with Nick is that he has, he's on the autism spectrum. In his trial, there was like some debate over how severe it was. His family and some doctors said it was very severe, and he's sort of like mentally 12 or 15. And then the prosecution were like, it's low grade, it's not that bad. So they end up having this relationship, and it gets hot and heavy very quickly. And Nick introduces Gypsy to his kinks, to BDSM, like bondage and the whole like master slave thing, and that kind of shit. Then Nick also starts talking about how he has these different personalities, these different sides of him, right? He actually used to take medication because he was hearing voices in his head, but he stopped taking it when he moved in with his mom, and his mom said he seemed fine, but he would tell Gypsy that he has, this evil side and different, like one of his personalities was Victor, a 500-year-old vampire. And so Gypsy said she started playing along. She was like, oh, I have also something like that. Her name is like Devona or Demona Wolf.
Who is Demona?
She's half werewolf and half human.
Who is Kitty?
She's like a childlike girl.
Ruby?
She's my evil side.
What about Candy?
She's more of the slutty side of me.
Did you also have wigs?
Yes.
They were messaging all the time, and she would refer to Nick as like sir or master, and he would call her like his slave, and she would call him daddy, he would call her daughter. Like they very much had that like dominant submissive thing going on. About a year after they met online, Nick got arrested. Why? Well, he was watching porn on a tablet at a McDonald's and, quote, fondling himself for 9 hours. So they arrested him. Gypsy knew about it, and she was like, oh, I gave him an earful. Well, at least that's what she told the cops when she was being interrogated, which no one asked her about that. She just randomly brought it up.
I'm gonna hit my boyfriend upside the head if he did something. He got arrested back last year for watching porn at a McDonald's. I told him never to do that. Sure got an earful from me.
Gypsy's like making a bunch of different Facebook accounts, and she's messaging him, and she's dressing up, and they're like having this relationship for about a year or two. And that's when Gypsy confides in him because he thought she was in the wheelchair and sick. But then she tells him the truth. Like she told Dan after about a year or so, like, I actually can walk. I don't need it. Like, this is what my mom's doing to me. And he's like, oh my God, that's messed up. And so they want to come up with a plan to meet each other. They are like talking, and Gypsy tells him, like, listen, my mom's very overprotective. She doesn't want me dating. Like, I tried to date before, it didn't go well. But I really want to be with you. Like, what can we do? And so according to their messages, Gypsy sort of comes up with this very convoluted idea of like, hey, we go to the movies a lot. I cosplay, I dress up. She's like, I'm going to go see Cinderella. I'm going to be dressed up as Cinderella to watch the movie in the theater with my mom. Why don't you come to the same theater dressed as Prince Charming, and then we'll like bump into each other as if we don't know each other, and then you can meet my mom, and then we can live happily ever after. And so he's like, okay. And so she ends up stealing money from her mom's little cash stash that she has, and she sends it in the mail to Nick, who lives in Wisconsin. She's in Missouri, so that he could get a Greyhound to come down and some money for a hotel and get the movie tickets and they can meet and this whole elaborate plan will come together and she can live with him happily ever after. It didn't work out that way. They bump into each other in the movie theater and DeeDee is like, this guy is weird.
She said that there was something dangerous about him. She said that he seems like the head in a closet type of person that kind of murders and kills and like Jeffrey Dahmer.
He's 25, he doesn't have kids, he's dressed up as Prince Charming at the theater, like he's talking to you and you're like sick in a wheelchair with the wig dressed like Cinderella. Like, this guy's weird.
She had talked to him for a little while and was like, you're not good enough for my daughter, you're a creepy eye, and it's creepy that you were hitting on my daughter whenever we're going to a family movie.
And so according to Gypsy, she was like, she was paying too much attention to Nick. DeeDee got jealous, and Gypsy said that like she basically took Nick into the men's bathroom, into one of the stalls where they had sex for the first time, and he took her virginity.
Wow, did her mom know?
We kept it from her mom. She just took me to the boys' bathroom. I didn't have any choice.
We had sexual relations in the bathroom stall of the men's bathroom.
Then when they went back home in their separate ways, Gypsy and DeeDee get into a huge argument because DeeDee doesn't like Nick and doesn't want her to see Nick. And so Gypsy's like, oh my God, this plan failed. Like, what are we going to do? So she gets back online secretly and she's talking to Nick. She's like, oh my God, the plan didn't work. And they're like sitting there trying to figure out what could happen. And he's like, I'm sorry, you know, I'll do anything for you. And she's like, anything? You'll do anything? He's like, of course, I'll do anything for you. And she's like, would you kill my mom? And he's like, I won't kill your mom, but my evil side will kill your mom. And she's like, okay. Remember the neighbor, Amy, that I told you about, and her daughter, Aaliyah? Okay. So Aaliyah and Gypsy were friends. Back when Gypsy was talking to that guy, Dan, from the convention, she confided in Aaliyah that, you know, she's trying to meet up with a guy and try to like learn about like, how do you kiss? And like, what do you do? And what about guys and stuff? And when she ran away and DeeDee found all those messages, DeeDee also found messages between Gypsy and Aaliyah. And so she confronted Aaliyah, like, you're polluting my daughter's brain. Like, why are you talking about this kind of stuff? Like, stop it, blah, blah, blah. And so even though DeeDee didn't want them talking, Gypsy would always make these like fake Facebook accounts. And when she was online, send messages to Aaliyah. And so she started doing that again around 2014 when she got with Nick. She did the same thing with Aaliyah. She was like, hey, so I met this guy. His name is Nick. Like, my mom doesn't know I'm messaging you. In these messages, Gypsy tells Aaliyah that she's planning to move to Wisconsin with this guy, Nick, and that she wants to have his baby and leave and all this stuff. Okay. Remember that for later. Now it is 2015 and Gypsy and Nick are straight up planning a murder. They're like talking about the weapon, how they're going to do it, researching what's the best way. They're like, we can't use a gun. It's too loud. We don't know how to poison.
I mean, she looked up multiple times of how to do it because she wanted to find the quickest way to do it. It makes sense. More holes, faster they go away, and the faster they are at peace.
And so, how did you get the knife? Like, where'd the knife come from?
She somehow found a way to get one at Walmart. I don't know how she did, but she did.
What kind of knife? They start talking about it. Nick's like, a machete. And Gypsy's like, no, machete's too big. I'm going to steal the knife from Walmart. Like, how about this smaller knife? And he's like, okay. She goes and she steals the knife from Walmart.
I supplied the knife.
Where did you get the knife?
I stole it from Walmart.
Nick is asking Gypsy about like, what time does DeeDee sleep and how does she sleep and like, what's the layout of the house? And Gypsy even filmed a video for Nick showing the layout of the house and the bed. And there's this part where like she's showing the bed where DeeDee sleeps in and she goes like that with her hand like in front of the camera, like stabby stab time. Just like before when they orchestrated that whole thing to like bump into each other in the movies, Gypsy did the same thing where she stole money, mailed it to Nick so that he could come down, check into a hotel.
I paid for the Greyhound bus ticket. I paid for the hotel and for eating money.
How did you pay for this? How did you get the money so that to Nick?
I stole the money from my mother and I sent it to him via the mail. I don't know the exact amount, probably about $800.
Why'd you pay for it?
I didn't think he'd have enough money.
June 10th, 2015 is when DeeDee is murdered, right? Leading up to that, Nick arrives in Missouri. He's at a hotel and he's communicating with Gypsy and they're planning the whole thing. Gypsy is at home with her mom and she's like playing it cool. Nick is telling her things like, tell your mom you love her and stuff. And so, according to Gypsy, they had an argument before and they had just made up and they were kind of like in a good space. And so they started like painting each other's nails. And then Gypsy gives her mom this like really big hug out of nowhere. And she said that her mom said, what's that for? I'm not dead yet. And Gypsy was like, it's so ironic, it was so weird. And then they both are like gonna go to bed. And Gypsy tells her mom, like, I'll be a good girl. And she said that her last words, DeeDee's last words to Gypsy were, don't hurt me. Little did she know, Gypsy texts Nick, like, she's in bed, like, now, come now. So Nick shows up. She gives him the knife and some gloves. He tells her, like, go in the bathroom. That was the plan, that she would be in the bathroom. She goes into the bathroom and Nick goes into DeeDee's bedroom and he starts stabbing her. DeeDee wakes up and she's like, who are you? And she's screaming for Gypsy.
Did she scream or holler or?
Yeah, she did.
What was she saying?
It's like,
Gypsy. Okay.
yeah, she was loud.
And what did you do when she did that?
It didn't stop me from keep on going.
Okay, you just kept stabbing her?
Yeah.
Gypsy can hear her, but she doesn't come out. She said she just covered her ears and she just sat there and she just like waited for it to happen until she couldn't hear her mom anymore. And Gypsy and Nick, they had this plan of like when he's done and he comes to like knock on the bathroom door, there was like a certain knock, like a couple knocks and 2 scratches or something.
I knocked on the door and I also scratched on the door twice to let her know it was me instead of her mom.
And so he came back and he did like their secret knock and he said that Gypsy was like, give me a minute, I need to shave like myself.
You do the 3 knocks and the 2 scratches. Does she open the door?
Not right away.
Okay, what happens?
She wanted to shave her private part
Okay.
and her legs.
Okay, she wanted to shave her private part and her legs?
Yes, for me. Usually her mom does not let her shave her legs.
Okay.
And she comes out nude, and while nude, she's cleaning up the crime scene, like her mom's blood and shit, with baby wipes while nude. And then they go into Gypsy's room and they start having sex, like right after the murder. And then Nick was even saying like there was no pleasure in it for him.
And then she comes out and then she cleans. Is she still naked when she's cleaning?
She felt like she was in a rush, so she just did the entire thing.
Okay, did it naked.
Yeah.
What kind of bed does she have?
It was biggest thing I can remember about her bed is that it was full, and I mean full of stuffed animals.
Okay.
Gosh.
And then he took me to my bedroom and he made me take off all my toys off the bed.
So it made you take all your toys off your bed? Okay.
He raped me.
She wanted to have sex with me, so I did.
Okay, she wanted to have sex with you?
Yes.
Okay.
The kind of sex that it was pretty much, was 100% consensual. Is what I'm
Okay.
looking for. Yeah. Obviously, I was the one that was in charge, but she went along with it willingly.
When you have sex, do you ejaculate? Like the semen come out of your penis?
I barely felt any pleasure, actually.
Okay. Is there a reason you didn't feel pleasure?
I don't know. It's really hard to say.
Okay, so you didn't ejaculate while you were at their house?
Nope.
And that's where the controversy comes in, where like their stories differ, because up till that point, their stories are pretty much the same. According to, well, both of them agree that for a minute there in the planning phase, Nick wanted to R-word DeeDee.
I think one of the things that she might have said was that you had mentioned that you'd like to rape her mom.
Yeah, at one point I was thinking about it. I did actually mention that I was thinking about it, but then I changed my mind because I felt bad for just the whole situation of having to kill her mom in general.
Okay.
So I decided to just kill her quickly.
Okay, go quickly. How long do you think it was that you were stabbing her?
Maybe 5 minutes, maybe.
Gypsy said, no, don't do that. R-word me, right? She says she told him, I'll let you R-word me, which really isn't R-word if you're letting someone do it. And so she says that when they went into the room after the murder, it was consensual in the beginning, according to Gypsy. But then she said no, and he didn't stop. According to Nick, he said, well, she told me that she was going to let me R-word her. So like when she said no, I thought that was like part of the whole thing we were doing. Like the fantasy role play situation. I don't know. But whatever happened, they ended up doing it. And after that, they were like, let's finish cleaning up, let's pack up, and let's leave. And that's what they do. They go back to the hotel that Nick was staying at. Nick goes in as himself by himself.
Not another night.
It's just one night. Yeah.
Okay.
And sneaks Gypsy in through the back, like through the elevators and stuff. And they're at this hotel, and there's a video that gets filmed at the hotel.
You're eating a brownie. But later, you will be eating me.
They end up getting a cab and going to get a Greyhound and going back to Wisconsin. What's interesting here is that one of the cab drivers that was driving them was interviewed by police and said that Gypsy was the ringleader. She was making all the decisions and plans, and Nick was just going along with it. Once they take the Greyhound back and they get back to Nick's house, immediately the first thing that Gypsy realizes is that this is not what she thought it was going to be. She thought he was much more independent and well off than he was. She was kind of like, damn, is this what I killed my mom for? According to the other people in the home, like his stepdad and stuff, they were like, dude, the shit was weird. They were like, first of all, the stepdad was like, they were going at it like rabbits, like loud. He was like, it was squeaky sounds she was making.
All I know is they were freaking going at it like rabbits.
Yeah.
I had to yell at them, like, can you please wait until I go to work?
That's like a weird question, but the reason why I'm asking. Is she loud? Is she not loud?
Squeaky.
Okay. Whenever they're...
Yeah, she's very squeaky.
Even the way she made the mac and cheese was weird.
When she came down and tried making macaroni and cheese right before I was getting ready to go to work, she was making it weird. She was actually taking the milk, the cheese packet, and the butter and mixing it all together. Cold. She goes, well, this is how my mom does it. I'm like, I'll show you the right way to do it.
So now it's a couple days after DeeDee's been murdered, and Gypsy is anxious, right? She keeps checking to see if DeeDee's body has been found, and it hasn't been found. And she's just like, oh my God, I'm sick of waiting. Now, according to Gypsy, the reason why she did what she did next was because she felt bad for her mom and she wanted her mom to have a proper burial, which she ended up getting her ashes flushed.
Have you seen the Facebook posts that were out there? That was on Gypsy.
Yes, sir. I put it on there because I wanted someone to find my mom.
What did that post say?
Something really bad.
Okay. What was so bad? What was said?
I put what he had said to me, and he was happy about it.
Which was what?
Bitch is dead.
That bitch is dead? There was another post. There was something else that was put on there.
Mm-hmm.
What was that?
My mom got slashed, and he raped me. He said to post that so they wouldn't come looking for me.
And who posted that?
Me.
There was a Facebook page that Gypsy and DeeDee shared, like a combined page. And on that page, Gypsy posted, "The bitch is dead." Okay. And all of a sudden, everyone's leaving comments and they're just like, what? What is this? She's been hacked? Oh my God, this is what's going on? What's going on? So it starts escalating and people are responding. And as they're like discussing what's going on, thinking that she's been hacked, Gypsy posts another post. And this one says, I fucking slashed that fat pig and R-worded her sweet innocent daughter. Her scream was so fucking loud. LOL. And that's when people were like, what? She slashed what? So now they're like freaking out, and the people on Facebook who are like within driving distance, they start saying like, "We're gonna call the cops. We're gonna drive over to the house now. Like we're gonna see what's going on." So as the shit is unfolding, like people are commenting about it and asking questions. And so what ends up happening is this: when these people from Facebook show up to the house, there's already a crowd there. And they're trying to look through the windows, but the windows are blacked out. The doors are locked. Dee Dee's car is outside and she's not answering her phone. They can't reach anyone and they're trying to figure out what's going on. So they call 911. When the cops arrive, they're like, listen, we need a warrant. We can't just go in there. We're going to get one, but we're like waiting on it. Like we requested one, but we're waiting. In the meantime, one of the neighbors, this guy, he's like, I'm just gonna like crawl and peek through the window. I have to. And the officer's like, well, I'm not gonna stop you. So he ends up crawling, peeking through the window. And from just doing that, he says that the lights were off, the AC was on high, like it was cold, and he could make out that Gypsy's wheelchair was there, but not much else. So he tells, them that, and everyone's like, what? Her wheelchair is there? Like, oh my God, how's she going to be functioning without a wheelchair? Like, what's happening? What's happening? Later that night, the cops get a warrant approved, like they get the search warrant and they go into the house. When they go into the house, that's when they find Dee Dee's body, that she had been stabbed like 17 times. She had been dead for a few days, and that Gypsy wasn't there. Her wheelchair was there, but she wasn't there. So when they come out of the house and, they tell the crowd that's there about this whole thing, Aaliyah, remember Amy's daughter, the neighbor, the one that Gypsy was confiding in?
Aaliyah's worried about you.
Aaliyah? Are you kidding me?
Look at me. Look at me.
Aaliyah's always been a bully to me.
So she tells the cops, like, hey, I don't know if this is important or what, but I feel like I should tell you that she has this secret boyfriend that no one knows about, but she told me about him. And here are the messages that I have about it. Well, the cops end up through these messages tracing the IP address, and it like goes to Nick's house in Wisconsin. They call the cops in Wisconsin. They're like, this is what's going on. Go over there and check. And sure enough, Gypsy is there, Nick is there, and they end up arresting them. That's when they take them to the police station and they start questioning them separately.
Hello, Gypsy. Hi, I'm Lieutenant Alm. I brought Nick in, and Nick was just he was concerned about you, so I'm going to check to make sure you're fine. Looks like you're doing good.
Is he alright?
And he is fine as well.
Tell him they're treating me nice.
Excellent. I will do that. Yeah, you got the nice couch. You got the nice room. Give you the nice room.
Nice fishy room.
There it is. It doubles as a pillow rug. Nice. All right.
Thank you so much.
I'm going to take you up to the hospital, but I got to ask you to stand up, please.
Sure.
Go get you checked out at the doctor real quick. Get you back on their meds. Okay, sound good?
Yep. Got a blanket for you.
Thank you so much.
You're welcome. There you go.
Yes, sir. It's kind of weird though. People saying you're handcuffs, they give you this weird look, and I'm like, I didn't do anything. I didn't kill nobody. I don't do drugs. I don't smoke. I don't drink. I didn't do nothing. I'm a good girl.
How you doing? Do you need anything?
No, sir.
How was the sandwich?
Oh, it's very delicious.
I think you're the first person I've ever heard say that. Hey, Gypsy, this is Stan.
Hi, Gypsy.
Let you guys
Hi.
talk.
I'm Detective Hancock. I'm from the Sheriff's Office. Your mom's dead. Okay. What I want to ask you
Wait,
is
what?
your mom's passed away. Okay, and she's deceased. All right. What I want to ask you: did you have involvement in this? Okay.
No.
And I know that you know. All right. I wouldn't be here if I didn't know.
Did she have a heart attack? She was
Hey,
sick.
look at me. We're not going to play those games. I'm not going to do that.
Please tell me she did not commit suicide. She had bipolar.
Okay,
And
we're not going to get off on that track. What do you think is going to happen to you if you go down that path? It's not a path to go down.
if anything, I don't tell lies. I would never hurt my mom.
Okay, sweetheart. Look, you really want to dig yourself? You're digging yourself deeper. Okay?
No, seriously, I would never hurt
Listen
her.
to me.
You think that it's me? Why do you think that it's me? I have always loved my
Listen to
mom.
me.
My mom and I are best friends.
Listen to me. Please don't dig yourself in the soul. And that's what you're doing. You're still doing it.
I came here because my mother kicked me out of my house. I guess she wanted me to stay a little girl forever. She didn't really like my boyfriend. I'm not a violent person. I would never ever hurt her. My friends know me as a sweet
you're
girl
right.
and as
You're
I
right.
am.
But you know what? Sometimes sweet people make mistakes. You explode. Everybody does.
I go to church
Okay.
and I take communion and I release all of that.
Jesus got angry in the Bible, did he not?
Yes.
And flipped the tables over, right?
Yes, you did.
Okay, so even he gets angry. You were there, okay?
Wait, no.
Yes, you were. You were there. Somebody threatened you?
What do you mean threatened?
What do you think a threat is?
I'm gonna kill.
Somebody ever said that to you?
Well, once by a stranger at Walmart. Please don't think I did it because I did anything to my mom because I didn't. She said that there was something dangerous about him.
Your mom was right.
Jeffrey Dahmer kind of person.
You think your mom was right? You know your mom was right when she said that.
He killed my mom.
He killed your mom.
Yes, I know it. He put me in the bathroom and he locked the door. He went to my mom's room and I heard her cry and heard him scream for my name. He commanded me to clean him up.
How did you do that?
Baby wipes.
Baby wipes. Okay.
I know that helping him clean up was wrong. He said I had to, and he grabbed me by the throat, and he said I had to. What's gonna happen to me, sir?
Well, I'm glad you asked that, and we'll talk about that. I want to get a few more things out of the way.
I was like, where are you going? And he put me in the bathroom. He closed the door.
So how come you never unlocked it and came out?
I never thought about it.
What were you wearing that night?
I was wearing a white nightgown with flowers.
Did you have panties or shorts or anything on?
No, I don't usually wear panties to bed.
Okay. How'd you get these stuff on your neck? How'd you get all that?
They're hickeys.
You're telling me this is a hickey? You've been honest with me this whole time now. I'm a guy. I would never give a girl a hickey on her arm. Okay? Look at me. At what point did he grab your arm?
He kept on grabbing me to bring me around the house. I didn't do anything wrong.
You never killed your mom?
No.
Never touched her with a knife?
No, never did, sir.
You never agreed? Told him that you knew he was going to kill her?
No.
Did you have knowledge that Nicholas was going to kill your mom?
Yes.
Before he did it?
Yes, sir.
Sit tight for me, okay?
He called it his evil side. He needs to get rid of that side. He even made me leave behind my cross. Because he believes his own religion, I guess.
Okay. Do you have any other bruises anywhere? And I don't want you to don't show me any of your body parts, okay? Talk to your boyfriend.
Mm-hmm.
There's a whole lot of stuff you're leaving out, girl. You want to talk to me about it? Tell me about it?
Sure, I'll tell you.
Okay.
I'll tell you.
You planned this with him, okay? You didn't get locked in the bathroom, okay? I'm not stupid. First of all, the lock's on this side, so you can't get locked in there. You brought the idea into the picture.
I didn't bring the idea.
You did bring it in. You brought the whole thing in the idea.
No.
And he did it for you.
No.
Yeah.
No.
He did. Okay? So the gig's up. It's up. You're done. You're done. You hated your mom?
I did not hate my mom. I did not hate my mom. I loved my mom.
We're done. Later on down the line, you're going to be booked in for probably murder. Right?
I didn't murder my mom, sir.
Listen to me. Listen to me. You did, because you're behind it. You pulled all the strings on it.
I did.
And you're behind it. I'm not going to play the sympathetic game. I'm not like that, okay? I can see right through it.
I'm not able to be in jail. I have a lot of medical
I
needs.
understand that. And they'll get taken care of.
I want a lawyer. Please, sir. Sir.
Have a seat. Is everything okay?
Yeah.
You're on the floor there?
I'm just scared.
Okay. If you want to step out, by policy, we're going to have to put some handcuffs on you.
Still here.
Nick's still in the, yeah, he's still in the building.
He's giving a message for me.
Well, we're not giving any messages.
Gypsy really kept up the lie, the manipulation, and even then when she did admit to things, it was still like not really exactly the truth. Nick, he like pretty much told the truth. He did try to lie in the beginning, but it didn't take much for him to break.
Got somebody to talk to.
Hi.
Oh, okay. Hello.
Hello. What did you eat?
They're called ham sandwiches. I guess they offer that with mayonnaise as well.
I'll go get the time and the date.
Okay. I've been wanting to talk to her for a while because I want to know what's going on. Okay.
What you need to know is that Gypsy told us everything. Did Gypsy know that you were going to kill her mother?
Honestly, she asked me to.
Okay.
Yes.
Why did she ask you to do that?
Because she felt it was her only way to be with me.
And how did Gypsy ask you to do that?
Well, it was more than once. I mean, Facebook, we would talk about it on there. We would talk about it even on texts.
Okay.
And then the truth is, okay, I'll admit it. I did actually stab her mom. I will admit it.
I know. Okay.
There's no way I would have did for anyone else.
Okay. So you just
'Cause I
did.
truly do worship her to the point there's nothing I want to do for her.
Okay.
She asked me more than once. Honestly, to this day, I still feel guilty about it. I actually realized how great of a mom she was.
Okay. So it kind of makes you feel a little guilty.
No. I feel a lot more guilt than that.
Okay. You stabbed her 4?
Yeah, 4 times.
Okay.
The 4th one, I felt it go into, I think it might have been her lungs.
Okay.
It was harder to get out.
Okay. Did Gypsy ever come out and see her mom?
I wouldn't let her.
You wouldn't let her go in there and see her?
I didn't want her to be traumatized.
Did you have sex with Dee?
No.
You didn't stick your penis anywhere on her?
Nope.
Are you sure?
Yep.
Did you stick your penis in her mouth?
Nope.
Okay. Did your penis touch anywhere on Dee's body?
Nope.
Okay. You didn't kiss her or
Nope.
lick her or anything like that?
Nope.
Did Gypsy come in and do anything like that with her mom?
No.
Touch her mom's privates? Or
No, she wouldn't do that.
would there be any reason that she would have bruises on her arms or her legs?
Yes, because she wanted me to mark my territory. I think I was trying to give her hickeys on her body as well.
Okay.
That's the other thing I was trying to do.
They get charged with first-degree murder. Then the police come out, they do a press conference, and they're like, not everything is what it seems.
And I want to start off with saying things are not always as they appear.
They're like, first of all, Gypsy's alive, DeeDee's dead. Oh, by the way, Gypsy, she can walk. She's not sick. They've been doing this fraud for a long time. The situation is very complicated, and we'll let you know more as we figure it out. But basically, DeeDee's dead, and Nick and Gypsy have been arrested. And this is when the shit hits the fan. First of all, Gypsy's dad is crying and shocked and freaking out because he saw like this footage of her being brought into court for the arraignment walking.
She sounds like a child.
2103 West Turkey.
But Gypsy Blanchard is an adult.
And he's like, I had so many mixed emotions because I'm like, oh my God, she can walk. He's happy. But then he's like, oh my God, she killed her mom. And then he's like, well, why did she kill her? What? She was lying about the whole thing. I mean, it was so much, right? And there was a lot of mixed emotions. People felt bad for Gypsy. Some people felt like Gypsy was the bad person. Some people felt bad for DeeDee. Some people thought that DeeDee was the bad person. And some, it was complicated. Both Nick and Gypsy pled not guilty. And so they both got public defenders, and Gypsy's public defender, he said that when he went to the house and started, looking at the evidence and everything, he was shocked. He looked at the medical records and like all these unnecessary surgeries, and he said the house was a mess, but the medicine cabinet was so neat and organized, and the binder with like all the doctors and information was so neat and organized. And he was like, just the amount of medications that this girl was taking that she didn't have to take is insane. And so he's like, you know what? I need to speak to the prosecutor. He goes and he shares this information with the prosecutor, and they end up coming up with a deal. And they offer Gypsy this plea deal for second-degree murder, and she would have to do 10 years.
The judgment sentence of the court that you be sentenced to 10 years in the Missouri Department of Corrections. Probation will be denied.
The alternative would have been either life or the death penalty. Gypsy, as part of her plea deal, she didn't actually have to testify against Nick, but she did it anyway. Gypsy said there's a big difference between someone who asks someone to kill someone and someone that actually does it. Because I would never kill somebody. I would never physically go through with killing somebody. I can't. But remember, she herself said she shot her mom 10 times with what she thought was a real gun. So clearly, she can and she did go through with it, but she's claiming here she can't, she couldn't. And she never would have if it wasn't for Nick. And then she goes, I don't hate him. I feel sorry for him. And just that somebody could do something so heartless and not express remorse and not feel like he's responsible for it. He's very much like my mother in certain ways. And I feel like I was trained my whole life to do as I was told.
I always knew that I didn't need the wheelchair
And how did you know that?
because I could walk.
Did you and your mother obtain any kind of advantage by you being in a wheelchair?
Yes, sir. Financial, attention, charity, because people felt sorry for me.
At some point, you decided to kill your mother. Is that correct?
Yes, thoughts of it started a year prior to the murder actually happening.
Whose idea was it to kill your mother?
Mine,
Why did you want to kill your mother?
because I wanted to be free of her hold on me.
That's all the questions I have, Mr. Judge.
Thank you. Does the state have questions?
Yes, may I move the TV? I'm just going to show Ms. Blanchard a few exhibits.
Sure.
He says to you, okay, but when he gets you from the bathroom, I suggest you are naked when he sees you after the deed. Do you see that?
Yes, sir.
He wanted you to clean naked.
Yes, sir.
I don't have any further questions, Chairman.
Thank you, Mr. Perry.
Did Nick ever rape you?
Blanchard. Do you need some water? Mr. Perry, let her have a drink first.
Okay, that's fine.
Thank you.
Did Nick ever rape you?
No,
And when you guys had sex after your mother's murder, was that consensual?
it started out as consensual, yes. I told him to stop during sex, and he did not.
Ladies and gentlemen, I think we've reached a good time for lunch.
The jury deliberated for just over 2 hours on the fate of Nicholas Godejohn.
We, the jury, find the defendant, Nicholas Godejohn, guilty of murder in the first degree.
He had a few appeals, but this recent one is for ineffective counsel. Has to do with his mental capacity and things like that, and what they wanted to bring and present and stuff. So we'll see if he gets actually another trial and what happens with that.
The reason I've agreed to do this interview was because I noticed that my ex-co-defendant, Gypsy Blanchard, got a lot of attention, as she did. I did feel that she was not taking responsibility for her actions, but at the same time, due to the way I know she was raised, I can't blame her. I can't.
When I was talking about the tide turning against Gypsy, this was kind of when it happened, because when the information came out about what DeeDee did to Gypsy, a lot of people were like, she deserved it. Like, that is horrendous. That's torture. Like, she tortured her for her whole life. Like, she did deserve to die. But when they saw that she sort of didn't support Nick and kind of used him and dropped him, they were like, well, that's fucked. Like, that's not cool, you know, because they already felt like DeeDee deserved to die. You know what I mean? And then there were people who were like, no, you know, she may have wanted that. Like, she was abused by Gypsy. Like, he wasn't. Why did he do it? And then people were like, well, because he was trying to save her and he loved her. I mean, I don't know. The point is, this is when the tide started to turn. People were questioning some elements of Gypsy's story. Like, why don't you just stand up and walk? Like, even if your mom was saying all these things. Like if you just stood up and walked like at a doctor's appointment or in front of people in the neighborhood, like, and been like, I'm fine. Like, please, I want to leave. I'm an adult. Like, you could have gotten away with it without killing your mom. But then her response was, quote, like, I couldn't just jump out of the wheelchair because I was afraid and I didn't know what my mother would do. I didn't have anyone to trust. Also, this is when the attention was insane because this story is crazy, right? There were all kinds of documentaries, HBO documentary, ID documentary, Hulu movie. When The Act came out, which was not a documentary, it was like a scripted series on Hulu. When that came out, Gypsy was pissed. And she was actually threatening to sue Hulu. She released a statement. She sent an email to Bustle, and the email said, I'm unable to watch The Act, because she's in prison. I guess she didn't have access. However, I feel it's very unfair and unprofessional that producers and co-producer Michelle Dean has used my actual name and story without my consent and the life rights to do so. Therefore, there will be legal action taken against the show's creators. I want to share my story and bring awareness about Munchausen by proxy in the hopes that I can encourage those who might be experiencing abuse to speak up because someone will listen. No child should ever be abused, especially from the parent. And so it turns out that Gypsy and actually her dad and stepmom, they were working on their own scripted series with someone else. They were going to call it By Proxy. And when The Act came out before by Hulu, they were upset because someone beat them to the punch and they weren't working with them. And so they say that's why she was upset, but she didn't actually sue them or anything like that. But she did come out and say, like, I'm gonna do my own thing and I want to write a book and I want to be an advocate. And she was already sort of preparing for that when she was in prison. In 2019, she ended up getting engaged to this guy called Ken. He met her through the prison pen pal thing, website, whatever, and they got engaged. He came to visit her when her parents were there. They took a picture. And then just a few months after that, they broke off the engagement and then they got back together again. And it was like, always being reported on by like people, like there's always exclusives with people, with Gypsy and her family, like they talk to People magazine a lot. So that kind of was a whole saga and soap opera. And then the pandemic hit in 2020, and that's when Gypsy met Ryan, who was her current husband, who a lot of people are talking about now that she's released and there's all this attention.
Gypsy Rose spent her first night at a hotel with her husband, Ryan Anderson. She posted a first selfie of freedom taken in the hotel room. He's 37 years old. He's a special ed teacher from Louisiana. They were married in 2022, but were not permitted conjugal visits. The cameras have been following Gypsy since her release.
So the way that she met Ryan was actually, again, through the prison pen pal thing. But Ryan spoke to People magazine, and this is what he said about how they met. That he was inspired to message her after a coworker told him that they were going to write to Joe Exotic from Tiger King. Remember during the pandemic when everyone and their mom was watching Tiger King and it was this huge thing? So someone was like, I'm going to write to Tiger King. And that's when Ryan said, if you're going to write to Tiger King, I'm going to write to Gypsy Rose, because he had seen the HBO documentary that came out. Quote, I said, I'll tell you what, if you write him, I'll write Gypsy Rose Blanchard. And I had watched her documentary, Mommy, Dead and Dearest, like 3 years before that. And then The Act came out, and I've never watched The Act, but I remember my friends talking about The Act, and I was like, I'll watch the documentary again. So it was kind of fresh on my mind. And he said he sent this email. He didn't think he would get a response, but Gypsy responded. And she liked that he was also from Louisiana like her. And they had some things in common. They start talking. He said that she was with a boyfriend at the time that they were talking, but that she broke up with him to be with Ryan. And then Ryan ended up visiting her and proposing to her, and they were going to get married. And then in this recent thing that came out, the Prison Confessions of Gypsy Rose, they're playing this audio of their jailhouse calls before their wedding, which they got married in 2022. But there was this fight they had where Gypsy tells him, like, I had a dream about Ken, her ex-fiance. And he's like, oh, really? Like right before the wedding? Like, what? When's the last time you saw him? Sorry, not saw him. When's the last time you spoke to him? Correction. And she tells him, like, I don't know, a couple weeks ago. And he's like, what? You lied to me. Like, I came and visited you. You didn't tell me you spoke to him. Like, this is fucked up. You're a fucking liar. And he hangs up. There's another call where he's like, why don't you just go marry Ken? And she's like, no, he doesn't want me. He wants a blonde bimbo. And I'm thinking, are you with him because you want to be with him or because Ken doesn't want to be with you? I was like, damn, if I was Ryan, I'd be like, what? Like, but anyway, so they end up getting married. Her family, they're trying to tell her, like, oh my God, this is too soon. But they're explaining that they want to get married so that when she gets out, they can live together because of the parole thing. And it needs to be a relative that you go stay with. So anyway, then in 2023, she's up for parole in September. She gets it. They're like, you're going to be released in December. That's when she gets released just a few months ago. And it's all over everything. And she becomes basically a meme.
Can't bring me down. I'm on high right now. I'm living my best life, and y'all can't take that from me. The D is fire.
Good morning, everybody. It's Gypsy. I wanted to come on here and give you guys some morning motivation. They can't bring you down. You're on a high right now. You're living your best life.
I don't care, because you can't bring me down. I'm on a high right now, and the D is fire.
She literally becomes everywhere. Like The View, every news network is interviewing her.
How many men wrote to you wanting to date you while you were in prison?
A lot. Over 250.
From all different countries.
From all countries, Italy,
I said 7
Germany.
continents.
I want to clap back. And that was my, clap back a little bit.
Gypsy, you alone have amassed over 6 million followers on Instagram.
Crazy.
Yes. It's definitely flattering. But to be honest, I'm no different than the next girl.
You have had to clap back at some haters. Some go as far to say as you're dangerous.
I was a part of the crime, but I didn't commit the act. I think that is what people need to really remember. Okay.
Celeb you'd like to meet?
Taylor Swift.
Celebrity crush?
Jason Momoa.
Jason Momoa? Place you want to travel to?
Los Angeles. Heard that a couple of celebrities have made comments. I think Will Smith had commented. He's happy that I got released and he wishes me the best and whatnot. Thank you, Will. It's very nice of you.
And then all of a sudden, the tide turns and you're getting, I'm over Gypsy. The problem with Gypsy, unpopular opinion about Gypsy. What the fuck are you guys doing? Why are you celebrating Gypsy? They talk about certain things, about how she squeezes her husband's hand in the interviews, just like her mom squeezed her hand, how she threw Nick under the bus when he did what she asked for him to free her from the situation with her mom. Not saying it's right, but why you got to throw him under the bus like that? Basically saying she's just fame hungry and she's using it for clout and she's killing for clout. And it becomes this whole thing. But I mean, you can't bring her down. Okay, she's living her best life and you can't take that from her. She released her book. In the book, she mentions certain things like how she didn't actually lose her virginity to Nick. But it's like a teaser. There's going to be another bigger book that's coming out soon. So we'll see what comes out in that. But yeah, I want to talk a little bit about the theories and see what you guys think, because this is the part that I'm curious about. Because, there's the whole she's a sociopath, manipulative, yes, what her mom did was fucked up, but did she have to actually kill her? Was there another way? Why did she choose that path? And for that, I'm like, I don't know, man. It seemed like she tried to run away a couple times. And if what she's saying is true, where she got chained to the bed and all this shit, and her mom said she was mentally incompetent, I feel like the whole thing where she was declared mentally incompetent gives credence to why she may have felt like she couldn't really escape in a traditional way and had to actually kill her mom and try to get away with it because nobody would believe her. I mean, I'm not advocating for murder, and who knows if she actually spoke out, would it have happened? But I can understand why she maybe would think that she didn't have another choice. You know what I'm saying? And as for now and her living her life, like let the girl live, dude. Like she fucking all those surgeries and shit, like let her, if she wants to be an influencer or like social media, write a book, be on TV, like let her do, like let her, it's not bothering me. You don't have to watch it if you don't want to watch it, you know? Like for me, I just like once I really looked into it and stuff, it's funny because when I started this video, I felt conflicted, but now retelling it and out loud, like not all of it jumbled in my head, but actually speaking on it for hours, which I've been doing right now. I'm not saying it was the right choice, but I'm saying I understand. I don't know what I would do. Thank God I'm not in that situation. And now that she's done her time, let her live. Okay, when the book comes out, I'm going to give her my money and I'm going to buy it and I'm going to read it. And that's where that is for me. What do you guys think? I would love to know. In any case, thank you guys so much for watching. Thank you to Blue Land for supporting my channel. Check out the link in the description and I will see you guys in the next one. Bye.